Hi, this is Josh
And Jenna.
with Resort TV 1, and today we're talking about should you visit a theme park and what it's like to visit a theme park during this current coronavirus crisis. So, we have several things we'd like to talk about based on our visit to Universal Studios here in Florida over the past week or so, and just our observations, our experiences, some of the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like, and just overall what it was like for those of you, that can't make it down here or that are not going to make it down for a while. If you're thinking, should I go? Should I wait? Hopefully we can answer some of those questions. So
Mhm.
before we get started with the video, this is going to be very much kind of podcast style. We're not going to do a whole lot of editing. We just want to talk a little bit informally about it and give you guys some opinions. So before we do, Jenna, tell them about the social media and subscribing.
So make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you know every time we go live or post a new video. Also, make sure you're following us on all the social media. We are Resort TV1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right. So please make sure you do those things. We appreciate it. And let's get right into the conversation at hand. First of all, the biggest thing on everybody's mind, and by far the comment we've received most on most of our videos, I was looking through some of them today, it's just people with a lot of concerns about masks. And I understand it's a very strange thing to ask people to do, especially if you live in a smaller community where maybe most people aren't wearing them. And obviously, everybody's going to grocery stores and stuff like that. So maybe people aren't wearing them in the grocery stores. But here in Central Florida, pretty much everybody's wearing the masks at
Mhm.
most of the stores and things. We'd have kind of gotten used to it. But obviously, that's a 15, 20, maybe 30-minute max grocery store run as opposed to an 8-hour, 10-hour day at a theme park.
Hours
So,
and hours, exactly. And inside
so.
versus mainly being outside at a theme park.
That's exactly right. So, I don't know. As far as the mask goes, it's definitely an inconvenience, and you do notice it, especially when you're walking from one attraction to the next. I noticed I was really, really huffing for air a little bit, and really just had to stop a couple times, take it off to the side and really just take a second to breathe and, to get my oxygen level back up a little bit. Overall, it wasn't too bad. You have to kind of get the mask adjusted. I wore a surgical mask the other day, and you have to figure out how to kind of adjust those around your nose. But really, if you're going to go, I would make sure that you have your mask fit and make sure you've got one that's comfortable, but that's not too hot, that's breathable, and things like that. What do you think about the mask situation, Jenna?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely an inconvenience, like you said. We noticed, um, you know, forgetting sometimes that they were on, which I guess is a good thing. But and trying to take a drink, I'm like, oh, right, take the mask off, then take a drink. But it definitely makes you hotter, for sure. It makes you a lot hotter, and it dries your throat out quite a bit. At least for me, it did because I noticed I was breathing out of my mouth more than my nose. I think probably because I could get more air out of my mouth, when the mask is on, and yeah, my throat was a lot drier than it would normally be. So make sure you are getting plenty of water while you're there and while you're wearing the mask.
Right. And there are lots of different kinds of masks. You've got your fabric masks. Those surgical masks are kind of paper type of a thing. You've got masks you can put filters in. Then you've got all the way up to the N95 professional masks, which I did see a few people wearing.
I
I
did
would,
too.
so it depends on your level of comfort. I would not recommend an N95 mask just because you are, according to scientists, you are mostly safer outside, and it's very, very hot to breathe through one of those all day long. I know people in construction do it and they get used to it, as well as doctors, and nurses and health professionals usually in an air-conditioned building. But still, I do know that they figure out how to do that. But especially if you're going to be walking around a theme park, I would not recommend that. And if you've got a weaker immune system or immunocompromised, you may want to probably think about not going anyway because there is a risk still, no matter how many precautions you take. So that's definitely, and probably if you have those issues, you probably are already have decided not to go until things calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
But otherwise, another thing I noticed, and this is kind of a little bit gross, but I noticed I liked the disposable mask because by the end of the day, and I had a couple extras, it kind of smelled. So, because you're sweating. And it's coming right in. If you're breathing through your nose, like I was mostly breathing through my nose, I think a lot, and I was smelling the mask because I had been sweating, and so I was glad to have an extra. But also, if you're doing a cloth mask, have 2, 3, or 4, and that way if you feel like, especially if it's a super hot day and you're like, okay, this mask smells, well then put it back in the bag and get another one. So that's another tip about the
Right. Well, and they
masks.
also say once they get wet, say if it rains or you are sweating, you are supposed to replace them, or you drop it on the ground. I've heard of people actually losing them on the ride accidentally. So it's nice to have a backup, just in case. They do sell some at Universal, so that's good. But just so you're prepared, have a
Yeah,
backup.
absolutely. You want to be completely prepared. And, overall, I would say that we were just so excited to get back into the park. The mask was a minor inconvenience, and that's really all it was. So if that's the only thing stopping you from going to the parks, I would, recommend trying it at the grocery store, trying it at a few different places, depending on your level of comfort. It may be a deal breaker for you, and that's totally understandable. But for us, we did enjoy going, despite the masks. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if that's the way to go, and actually, it did make me feel safer. So I'm gonna do it for sure.
There you go. And we can debate about whether it works, whether it doesn't. I think the bottom
Yeah,
line is if it doesn't work, well, it's not hurting you any other than the minor inconvenience of wearing it. It's not hurting.
yeah.
Obviously professionals wear them all day in certain jobs and things like that. But if it does help, then you're glad that you had it on. So it's kind of one of those, better safe than sorry type of things. So I'm okay with it during this, especially during the early stages of the reopening period until things calm down with the virus. Let's move on to social distancing. As far as crowd levels, social distance markers, and things like that throughout the park. How did you feel about crowd levels overall for the couple days you were there?
So overall, the crowd levels were amazing. Not very crowded at all. The worst part for me was I went on pass holder day, and our time to come I think was 10:45. So we got there around 10, and the line to get your temperature check was horrible. No social distancing at all. Now I know it was probably a popular time to come, and they had nowhere else to, like, I guess, I don't know, distribute all the people. I don't really
I
know.
think they were caught off guard a little bit by the crowd, even though they
Yes,
probably should have anticipated it. But yeah,
yes, yeah. So that I was not excited about. I almost turned around and left just when I saw that. But we had our masks on, and we tried to stay behind the people in front of us, as much as we could. But and then once you got up to the area where they did have social distancing markers where you were supposed to stand, then people did it.
hmm
Um, but inside the park was complete opposite. It was fine. Everybody was, social distancing as much as they could. The crowd levels were very low, so it was easier to do. Inside the queue lines for the rides, everybody was social distancing, and they had markers on the ground. I was telling mom it was almost like a game. It was like, all right, we'll move up to the next spot. Okay. And then we kept looking. We're like, okay, we can move to the next spot, so it kind of kept you occupied while you're in line. But yeah, inside the parks were great.
yeah, I think so too. And I didn't have that problem at temperature check because I went only on Friday, the very first public opening day of Universal, and so I was really anticipating a huge crowd that day. Just I thought, okay, well, a lot of people from Orlando, maybe if they don't have passes, they'll go for a day because they're just tired of being cramped in the house, and it's the first theme park, really first major theme park in North America to open. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty big deal. I mean, some smaller ones had opened, but nothing Disney or Universal or SeaWorld sized. So. Anyway, as far as that went, I got there like at 7, and I was actually there before the parking gate even opened. And then, so I basically was one of the first people in temperature check. So it wasn't an issue for me. So if that is something that you have some anxiety about, number one, and I understand it, number one, I would suggest getting there pretty early, and then you can be the first on some of the rides, and that's never a bad thing. Or number two, or get there, maybe afternoon or something like that. Because the
Yeah.
busiest time seems to be about between 10 and 11 or 9 and 11, right around the first couple hours of opening. So think
Yeah.
about either getting there super early or maybe delaying a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Because whenever we came on Friday, then for our Friday stream, mom and I got there about 2 o'clock, and the temperature check was fine. There was no line. So
right.
complete
So,
different story from the
yeah.
other day.
And speaking of the social distancing markers, I did think it was a little bit confusing in some of the queues because you're kind of training your eye 6 feet, 8 feet, something like that, or along those lines. And some of the queues, they did it right, but they had everybody staggered, so that meant that there might not be a mark for like 12 feet or 20 feet sometimes. sometimes like we were in the Hagrid line, or I guess I was in that by myself, and it was like I couldn't see another social distance marker, and then I had to like go all the way around the corner into the next room to even find one. And then sometimes I would go around the corner and realize there were already people on that marker, so then I'd just have to like make up my own marker, and I wasn't probably as far away from people. So there is that going on. That did confuse me a little bit. I know you said you made it a game. It made me a little bit anxious, especially in the Hagrid queue because it is mostly inside. But I did have
Yeah.
my mask, and everybody was very respectful. Everybody pretty much kept their masks on in the queues and things. And I know you see on the live streams people did take the masks off, but I think overall it was pretty good. I don't have a problem with people taking them off outside because that's where the wind's blowing and everything, and the chance of getting it is much less. But so anyway, social distancing I think was overall good. The crowds were the lowest I've ever seen them during the day at Universal. So
Yep.
and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but. So actually, that was next on my list, though. I guess
Okay.
besides that was short waits. So that was one of the things that, wow, so cool to just be able to go on all the rides kind of whenever you wanted. Now your pass holder day, talk about that a little bit. It was a little bit busier. Besides the temperature check issue, I think you had a little bit busier crowd levels that first day.
We did. I mean, it wasn't horrible. And it was only open until I think it was 5 p.m. So it wasn't as long of a day, as on Friday. It was open until 7 p.m. And our time to come in was 10:45, 11 o'clock. So anyways, when we got in and tried to figure out the virtual queue thing, it looked like most of the rides were already taken. So we were a little disappointed. But then later we found out that they added more throughout the day. And then I don't know if my app just wasn't working, but mom ended up getting some for us. So anyways, we're trying to figure that out. But we did notice some of especially to get your food, there was a lot of lines outside of restaurants, which I know, of course, again, it's going to look long because they're social distancing. But yeah, I mean, some of the queues were longer than I thought they might be just because crowd levels were down. So, but they weren't horrible.
Well, and
Nothing
some of
like,
that too for the short waits or even maybe longer, wait times, whatever you want to say, depending on what your expectation was, could be because the capacity of the rides was really cut down quite a bit. Like for instance, on Escape from Gringotts, very similar to what they're going to do on Pirates of the Caribbean and several things at Disney. When you've got rides with multiple rows, they're skipping a row, which means basically
yep.
it cuts the capacity of the ride in half or actually less. Because sometimes with me, I'm by myself. They'll put another party of two next to me in Pirates of the Caribbean. A lot of times, if they're super busy, they'll put they won't put like four adults that don't know each other together, but they'll put one or two together that don't know you. And so that obviously they didn't do that. They only put parties together that were in the same family, which is good. That's what they should do. But again,
Yes.
that really lessens the the capacity. Another thing I noticed was the Hogwarts Express. Of course, you get your own. We couldn't show this on the stream. I think you did probably show it on your vlog, but you get your own
I did.
compartment. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's going to make your wait longer, but it was amazing to have your own compartment because, you can see everything clearly. Usually your party is very respectful, because they're your family. So you're like, be quiet. I want to listen to, what's going on. So it's just
Mhm.
nice to be able to enjoy it, with your own family,
Agreed.
in compartment.
Yeah, you never really know. People are going to be respectful, or if they're going to talk over it, or if they're going to have, kids that are upset, or, whatever it happens. But it is
Sure.
nice to have your own family and you can kind of enjoy it the way that you want to, take video or whatever you want to do. Those of us who take video all the time, we're always worried if we start to take a video, is there going to be somebody talking or crying or, whatever over it? And of course that can't be helped, but it's nice that that you're going to be by yourself there. And it's a lot more
Yeah.
magical experience when you're just with your own group. So that's kind of, yes, it's going to make, like Jenna said, the wait time longer. 40 minutes, I think, was the longest I saw for the King's Cross station for the
Yeah,
Hogwarts
me too.
Express. That's still not bad because in the summer when things were open, wide open and the virus wasn't an issue, you could get 80, 90 minutes sometimes for
Oh
those.
yeah, for
And,
sure.
that was
Definitely.
with full capacity, filling up every single seat pretty much as they
Yeah.
could in the compartments. So,
Yeah.
um, that's a big deal. Overall, shorter wait times I've been watching kind of this weekend. 5 minutes for a lot of things, 10 minutes max. It just the virtual queues. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it just really that's one of the benefits of going is that you're going to enjoy shorter wait times, even though you do have to put up with the masks and the social distancing and things like that. Another thing I noticed And I'm sure you noticed as well. I had never been on Hagrid before, and they didn't have any pre-shows and the whole thing. So like Gringotts pre-show there, where the Weasley
Yep.
brothers, then they talk about the different. I guess it's Bill Weasley. I think that.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Sorry, I get my Weasleys
I think it's
messed up.
Bill.
I think it's Bill Weasley that talks
Yeah.
to you in the pre-show of Gringotts. Of course, he didn't do that. You just walked right through the elevator. You walked right through. Same thing. Hagrid doesn't talk to you in the beginning. So, what did you think about that, Jenna, having no pre-shows?
For me, it wasn't a big deal just because I'd seen the Gringotts one before, so I knew what it was about. But we did go on it with Chris, Maria's husband, and he had never been on it before. So for him, it was a little disappointing because he was kind of like, "Oh man, I missed out on that." But then it does make the ride go faster because you aren't waiting for each of those, pre-shows. You just walk on through. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Yeah,
It's safer for sure. I like that part that
yeah.
it is safer. So,
Well, and
but
I
yeah,
think
since you'd never been on Hagrid's, yeah, you were probably like, "Wait, what's going on?"
right. It was disappointing. I think that's the one thing. If you've never gone before, and this is something I would say is a blanket statement for any theme park. If you've never been to Disney or Universal before, this is probably not the time to come just because you're not going to experience it like it would be normally. There's no nighttime entertainment really. There's not a lot of things. Now, Universal did try and do some entertainment. We'll talk about that next, but there's not, there's no fireworks. There's their Cinemagic show or whatever it's called where they do on the water. Like they do little shows throughout the day with the water fountain. You showed that on your vlog and we showed it on the stream, but it's not like the huge nighttime show with all the projections and whatever. They just don't do that for now.
Yeah. Now, another nice thing I was going to say about coming now, if you've been before and you just want to come back, you get to experience some things like when we did the wand experience. Usually it's a group of people that go in together and they'll pick a random person out and, you might not get picked. Well, now you can only go in with your family or your group. And so I was able to be picked, because it literally was mom, me, and Maria. That was it. So, and it was just neat having that, intimate experience of just us with, Ollivander. So that was really cool. And then we went back and did it again so Maria could have the experience. So that was really neat. I thought that was cool. And they wouldn't do that normally. So.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was neat. I know we did it with Chris the next day or two later, and that was fun on the stream. So, yeah, there are some things that you'll get to experience. And, Diagon Alley is a lot more fun to explore. Normally, you're just literally fighting through the crowd because it's kind of a small area and it's very, very popular. Hogsmeade the same way, that it's just so popular. It's like the most popular part of the parks on both parks. And so it's nice not to have to fight through. You will have to wait a little bit longer to get in the stores if there is a little bit of a crowd because the stores are very small.
Yeah.
And things like that. Now,
yeah.
Something about pre-shows real quick before we move on to the next thing. The one thing I am a little bit concerned about, and this is something that is Disney related, kind of jumping over to Disney. Haunted Mansion with no pre-show, it is going to be really, really weird because that really sets up the whole story. But at Disney World, it's 100% possible because you just walk right through. Remember, that's not an elevator at Disney World. It's just a room. The ceiling goes up and you walk straight through. Whereas at Disneyland, it is an elevator, so that will not be possible. So I am not sure how they're going to do that. They may not open it, or if there's a way to. I don't know if there's a way to get down there through stairs or something like that. Then maybe there's another way to get people down there. I don't know. So leave a comment if you know how they might do that in Disneyland. We'll have to ask Britt and Crystal if they know if there's a way to do it without the elevator to just keep people moving. I don't know.
Well, I did notice at Gringotts, and I think actually, was it, I can't remember, but I know for sure Gringotts, they were, using doors that they normally wouldn't use. Like if we didn't have a bag going into the locker, they sent us out the emergency exit door, just so we were going a different way than the group of people that was, going to get their bags. So I'm sure that they'll use different, doors.
They may have a stairway or something. I mean, they may have a stairway.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. They'd have to. They have a stairway. So maybe they'll just take people. It wouldn't be magical because it'd just be like I'm sure it'd be unthemed stairway. But you can't be putting people in elevators. So that's the one thing I had. And of course, you can't skip an elevator. You got to get down to the next floor. So
yeah, true.
But anyway, so that's one thing not Universal related. But we already kind of touched on entertainment. But the one thing I really did like, they had the percussion group at
Mhm.
Universal, and they had little dots, where you could stand. They had the Hogwarts choir, which was nice.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
the other thing they had was the what the witches show or whatever you call it at the
Yes.
in Diagon Alley. So they did all those shows. I thought that was good. I just thought they wouldn't do them at all, but it was nice that they did. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I was happy that they did the shows still. The only thing we did come that was a little bit of an issue was when they were doing the construction show. Mom and I were trying to walk past it to get to, Diagon Alley, and it was more people than I really wanted to walk through, but there was no other way around them. So we went through them. I mean, it was outside, so and we had our masks on, so I'm sure it was fine. But that was the only thing. It did kind of draw a crowd. Now they were social distancing in the crowd, but then we had to walk through them to get to the other side of the street. So
Right.
that's the only thing.
Exactly. So yeah, so I think those are some concerns, especially for shows like that construction percussion show that everybody, I'm sure, if you've been to Universal, has seen. It's been there for a while, but it
Yes.
isn't a main thoroughfare, so maybe there's a way they can move it off to the side or something. That might be
Mhm.
a better idea. I'm not sure how easy that would be to move that set, but. The only other thing, let's see, we talked about pass holder day a little bit. Anything else you wanted to say about that? I had it on the list. We kind of covered it earlier.
Pass holder day. No, I mean, other than it closed at 5 o'clock, which I thought was kind of early. But as the day did go on, it did get less and less busy. Where we were, as you could see from the vlog I put out, we were one of the last people in Hogsmeade. Like I think there was us and another family. That was it. So that was really cool. Closing out the park. Um, but yeah, other than that, I don't know. It was
Well,
it was a fun day.
yeah, I mean, I wish I could have gone. I didn't have my pass till later, but we did. We were
Yeah,
almost the last people in the Hogsmeade area during the live stream as well, which was fun.
it was fun. Yeah.
So the other thing I had to talk about was temperature checks, and you already mentioned that. I think the biggest thing, though, and this is something I noticed in other areas of the park as well, going back to social distancing, people pretty much just don't social distance when there's no markers. Like they're just not going to.
True.
And
Yeah.
I caught myself, getting too close to somebody because you're just so ingrained when you go to a theme park that you fill in the space.
Me
And
too.
I ended up maybe 3 steps behind somebody instead of 6 steps behind, or whatever you want to say. I know it's 6 feet or whatever it is, but that's something that you have to kind of untrain yourself, filling in the space and moving forward. And you get impatient,
Yeah.
so you want to take that step forward, but you're not supposed to. And then I
Hmm.
did have some people a couple times that seemed like they were getting too close behind me.
Hmm.
I was just like, okay, you're not supposed to be that close, but
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. And usually, if you just turn around a couple times, they kind of get the idea. And I think, giving them the benefit of the doubt, they probably just forgot too. But it's just
Yeah.
makes you uncomfortable. So that's something else to
It
think
does.
about.
Well,
Um,
and I know what I was going to say one thing about that. For like when we were in the queue for the ride, it was like I said, it was easier to social distance because they had the markings, but also like you felt like nobody was going to cut in front of you. But when we were standing in line, waiting to get our temp checked, there were no, bars, queues to keep us in. So I felt like if we did stay back 6 feet because there were no markings, people would be cutting in front of us. So it was almost like we felt like we couldn't. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that happens at Disney and places where the queue gets really wide, like at Pirates and stuff. If you hang back too much, somebody's going to go around you. So yeah, you do have to
Yep.
be careful about that kind of thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you'll all get through and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, but um, So the other thing we were going to talk about is restaurants and how that worked a little bit, and then we'll talk about virtual queue, and that'll be just about it. But restaurants, I did eat only actually one time on that day. I kind of had a snack for dinner because I had a big lunch at the Three Broomsticks there. Or I'm sorry, not Three Broomsticks. I ate at the Leaky Cauldron there in Diagon Alley. They're very similar restaurants. I just always get the names. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, but I just always not thinking about it, get the names confused. But anyway, ate at the Leaky Cauldron, and I went ahead even before I walked in there and did the mobile order, thinking, well, maybe I just won't wait in the line. I'll feel more safe and it'll be fine. So I did the mobile order, and I even hit prepare my order right as I was about to walk in the front door, and thinking everything would be fine. Well, then I asked the guy, and he said, "Oh yeah, you still have to wait in line for a table." So that was interesting. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, the tables." there weren't that many people in there, but they were really spacing the tables out. And that was the first time I had eaten inside of a restaurant since this whole thing started with the virus. So it was a little bit nerve wracking. I kept my mask on until I got to my table. Pretty much everybody else did as well. They seated me kind of by the entrance, which I didn't really like, but I was still a good 10 feet away from where people were coming in. So, and then everybody has to take their masks off to eat, obviously. So, you have to kind of weigh that. And maybe if you feel more comfortable eating outside, you can do that and maybe be a little bit more safe as far as with the airborne spread of possible spread of the virus. But, the other thing about the restaurants, at least there at Leaky Cauldron, is that they were only doing the mobile order, it seemed like. And so when they got to your table, then the server at the table would actually put something into their device and tell the kitchen to go ahead and make the order. They brought you everything. There were no condiments on the table. Of course, you had to ask for those. No silverware, nothing. Everything was brought just for you. There was literally nothing on the table at all. So I thought that was a good idea. Obviously, menus are all on the phones or on the board, so they keep all that kind of so that people aren't touching it. But I did see people come in and they hadn't mobile ordered and they were asking them to, or they were helping them with their own devices. So I thought, well, that was a good idea to keep everybody from forming queues at the cash registers and things. It looked like they were doing, at least when I was there, they may change it, but it looked like all mobile order at the time. And so overall, the restaurant experience was good. It was just very different. You just kind of some things to get used to. Maybe, especially if you have kids and you want to look at menus and things, you may want to start looking at those on the app before you go into the restaurant, because there just aren't the menus like you're used to. They don't pass out paper menus. You don't have a lot of time to decide. So you may want to have that order in before you go in so that you can avoid any delays.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we didn't eat. We brought some food and we went to Starbucks and it wasn't busy at all. Now, they did not have mobile order at Starbucks, which I thought was interesting because normal Starbucks outside of the park has mobile order. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll set that up soon. But it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't busy. So we just went right up, ordered, and picked up our drinks and, walked out. So it wasn't bad.
That's good. That was one of the worst lines I actually saw when I went in on Friday morning, right as the park was
Really?
opening. Starbucks line was not social distance at all, so that was kind of unfortunate.
Really?
I think I showed it on the beginning of the live stream, but the good news is it finally did thin out a little bit. But
That's good.
so,
Yeah, we went in the afternoon, so it wasn't quite as busy. 'Cause everybody wants their morning coffee, I guess.
oh yeah, yep. But you may, if you need that Starbucks on the way in, you may want to, if the one outside the park is open, which I'm not sure if it
Yeah.
was, if that is open, you may want to grab it there
It
if you
is.
can. It's bigger.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't know what you were going to say, but
Oh, no, I was
um,
just gonna say it is open, the one outside.
oh, it is
In
open. Okay.
Yep.
So the last thing we're going to talk about is virtual queue. Jenny, you want to talk about that a little bit and your experience with that?
Yeah, and
Does it
actually,
work?
before we talk about the virtual queue, I did have one more thing I wanted to talk about when we were talking about the rides. I just want to say, and I said this in my vlog as well. I just want to say how they did an amazing job, I thought, like with the social distancing and the markers, but also like in Gringotts where you have the 3D glasses, they didn't have them in the bins like they normally do, where you just reach in and get them. They handed them to you, which
hmm
was smart. And also, then when you got to any ride, like we went on ET, Gringotts, they gave you hand sanitizer as you went in. Like you didn't get it; they actually put it in your hand so that everybody had it before getting on the ride, which I thought was really kudos to them. That was a good idea. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is a good idea. That way, at least less chance of things spreading through touching, because they did not wipe down the vehicles after every person rode, because that
they did.
would take forever. But use common sense. Use your own hand sanitizer when you get off the rides too, and that way you get a double whammy. So
Definitely, yeah. So I just want to mention that real quick. But so the virtual queue, I hadn't really looked much into it before we went, and I probably should have. So make sure, first of all, make sure your app is updated. Mine was not, so it didn't show that on there. So I had to go back and update it before I could even get any, even see virtual queue. And then when you went into it, I noticed that not all the rides were on there, which I thought was interesting as well. But they don't do virtual queue, I guess, for all the rides. Like
mm,
ET wasn't on there, Spider-Man, Men in Black. So they're not in the virtual queue. But
right.
then, so I was trying to get a ride, like I had said earlier. I think I was trying to get Gringotts because we were on that side of the park, and or in that park, and I couldn't get it. It said it was full. So mom got on her app like a little bit later and she was like, "Oh, I was able to get us Gringotts." I was like, "Huh?" I just looked and it said it was gone. Well, then we had kind of heard that they, you know, put times in throughout the day, which I think is a great idea. Instead of having them all at the beginning and they all are gone, it's kind of nice that they do stagger that. And I
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to keep doing that, but for now, that's kind of how they're doing it.
I think they
So,
will, and I think that's a really good idea because at Disney you're always used to kind of early bird gets the worm and whatever. But I
yeah,
noticed that as well. Like at first I couldn't get anything for Hagrid, and I just kept checking, and I finally got like a 4:30, but I really wanted it earlier so I could be in time for the stream, and so I just
yeah,
kept checking, and finally I was able to get a 3 o'clock. So, you know. Obviously, it wasn't busy that day. I don't know if that'll hold when it gets busier, but that's
yeah.
something about that. Now, um, was once you got your app updated, was it pretty stable for you, or did you notice bugs or anything
No,
with it?
no, we had some glitches. So I got in and I was able to, I was trying to get, I think, Despicable Me, the Minion Drive. And I had, picked it. I picked, three people and because you could put how many people are in your party. And then I picked our time and I clicked the time and then it went and it said, it gave me like an error message or I can't exactly remember what it said, but something didn't go right. And I kept trying and trying and it kept giving me that message. Well, then Maria tried it and she got it. So I don't know if it was just my app or again, and it was the very first day. It was pass holder day, so I think they were just having some issues with their app overall. But we'll keep trying it and seeing how we'll see how it does throughout the time. I mean, we're going to be going quite often since Disney is still closed. So
Right, right. Well, and and we're gonna go to SeaWorld here in a couple days too, so that'll
Mhm.
be good. But I
Yeah,
think overall I saw the glitchiness of it too. It's hard to see how it refreshes too, because normally on Disney you can either pick another time or you can pull to refresh or whatever, so that you can keep refreshing to check. But on Universal there really wasn't a way to refresh, so sometimes I just kept like force closing the app and trying again and things. And so I don't really know the secret to that. I didn't really figure it out in the one day that I was there, but it is glitchy. So just be prepared to be patient with it. Ask that one of their Universal, if you've not been there, their people employees are team members, not cast members. So ask a team
Mhm.
member if you can, if they can help you, and they have places, guest services places, and people with iPads and things where they can help you. So you just have to find the right place. But overall, I think it worked well. It kept the wait
Yeah.
times low. Even with Hagrid's, I only waited about 20 minutes, which is amazing for that ride that's usually multiple hours. So,
Yeah, no, that's not bad at all. We actually waited, I'd say 30 minutes for Gringotts
wow.
um, when we got it. Now, the first day, pass holder day, we waited 15 minutes, including riding the ride. But then
Yeah.
Friday before the stream, we ended up waiting about 35 minutes for Gringotts. So,
That's weird because earlier that same day, like literally just a couple hours earlier, I only waited maybe 10 minutes. I almost walked on it with the
mhm.
virtual queue there on
Wow.
Gringotts. So probably it
So
just
they
depends,
may,
or maybe it broke down or something and it got behind.
well, that could be, or they gave too many out at that time. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Or people just happen to show up at the same time, and that
Yeah.
happens too. But either way, it was a little buggy, but overall it worked well. Um, so the last question I guess we talked about answering is if you should go and overall impressions. Jenna, overall impressions, or if you should go. What do you think?
So overall, I think they did a great job. With the social distancing, the hand sanitizer. Like I said, the only thing I really had a big issue was the temp check, and that was during pass holder day, and we were there, when everybody else was coming. So stay clear of that, and you should be fine. Like Josh said, come early or come later, and you should be good. But overall, I thought they did a great job. Again, I like how not busy it is in the Harry Potter lands. You're able to enjoy it a little bit more, look at more of the details in the lands. Because like Josh was saying, usually you're like, trying to maneuver around people and not bump into people. Also, I did get the interactive wand. You get your whole, experience by yourself, which was amazing. And then the interactive wand places weren't quite as busy. Normally, you have to wait in line behind like a bunch of people to even do the interactive wand um, spells. But they again, since it wasn't busy, we literally walked up to like all of them and got to try them out. So um, you know, for those reasons, it's really cool. But like Josh was saying, if this is your one and only time, you've never been before, or you're not going to be able to go for several years later, this probably wouldn't be the time to come, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, for us, especially pass holders, or if you live close by, maybe you live in Georgia, or maybe you live just somewhere else in Florida, a couple hours away, it's worth a trip for sure. I
Hmm.
wouldn't, I wouldn't come down, all the way from up north, from Michigan, from New York, whatever else, or especially not from anywhere super far away in the West or Midwest or wherever. Like I wouldn't come over from California because their Universal isn't open yet,
Yeah.
unless you just absolutely have to have your theme park fixed, which I understand.
Yeah.
Just because they're it isn't quite the same, and you are going to be missing out on parts of the experience, and you don't really get refunds, for that. You're not getting those extra shows. You're not getting as long of hours. You're not getting the pre-shows, things like that. So you do get more attractions. You probably could get more attractions in a day without buying the express pass. So I guess you do save
Mhm.
money that way, and also get to do more. So there's a lot of positives to it. You just have to really rate, and also wearing a mask. And Universal, I think it's age three and up. I think they have to wear a mask, and
I think.
yeah, it's either I think Disney it's 2 and Universal it's 3, but either way,
Okay.
getting a 2 or a 3-year-old to wear a mask is going to be hard. So if
Yeah.
you have kids, that's something that you really have to consider. And also, kids touch everything and things like that. Like I saw a mom was behind me in line at the Three Broomster at the Leaky Cauldron. Sorry, and she was having a heck of a time getting him to stay with her because he just wanted to run around. And normally that wouldn't be a huge issue, but she was really trying hard to keep him with her. And it's like, you're breaking the rules, buddy. You're not supposed to be close to everybody, So she was really really trying to keep him, uh, you know, rounded up. So those are some things to think about as far as if you should visit. Definitely, if you are in a high risk group for the virus, I wouldn't visit because you're going to be, there's no way to make it completely safe. You're going to be at a risk at some point. You're going to have to take your mask
Oh
off
yeah.
to eat. Everybody else is going to have to take their mask off to eat. Somebody might cough. You might
Mhm.
end up in a smaller place or closer to somebody than you might want. You might end up
Yep.
taking your mask off at the same time as somebody right next to you and not even realize it. So,
Mhm.
again, obviously that's not to scare anybody because the chances still are pretty low. But if you are in a high risk, I definitely wouldn't go. It's just not worth. It's not worth that risk at this
Mhm.
point until things get a little bit safer. So that's kind of my take on it. Anything else you want to add, Jenna, before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, like I said, they did overall a great job, but like Josh said, you can't take the risk away. I mean, the risk is still there. And so, yeah, I mean, just weigh your options and see what works best for you and your family.
That's right. So, and by the way, we had talked about doing this a little bit shorter, but we had some great discussion here. Almost 37 minutes into the video here, 37 minutes and 30 seconds now, according to my timer or so in that neighborhood. So, if you're still watching, thank you. Hopefully, you enjoyed this discussion. Let us know in the comments down below. Number one, if you made it to this point in the video, let us know. And number two, let us know if you enjoyed this kind of informal discussion. Not really editing or if we messed something up or whatever. We just kind of made it more like a live stream where we just kind of kept it as is. So let us know in the comments if you like this format. Let us know what you think. Obviously, keep the comments polite. We're not getting into any kind of arguments with anybody about anything about whether we should or should not wear masks. This is not the place for that. But just knowing that we do have to wear them, we're kind of talking about how it is, and that was our discussion point about the masks, not whether or not we should have to, but just
Yeah.
how it is wearing them. That's a discussion for other places. So. But
Definitely.
anyway, so I hope you enjoyed. Again, hit that like, follow us on social media, subscribe, all the things. And Jenna, why don't you tell them about our awesome sponsors, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so we have MickeyBlog.com and MickeyTravels.com for the best and free Disney planning advice. And Victor Naraki, he is a realtor here in Central Florida. If you've ever dreamed about living near the magic, check him out at celebratingflorida.com or facebook.com/Naraki Realtor. Make sure you tell him Resort TV One sent you.
All right. Well, that's all for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. So for
Thanks.
now, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Now that you've finished watching this video, be sure that you're subscribed so that you can get all of the latest updates. Also, check out some other great videos on our channel. Have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye-bye.